Okay, hi everybody. We're back on the roof, and today we have a real special treat for you. We have David Block, aka The Human Experience. Welcome, Dave.
Thanks so much for having me.
Pleasure to have you here. How did you find your way into music?
Well, I started playing when I was a kid. I did piano from 6 to 12 years old before I quit because I thought piano was for losers, which was unfortunate. And listen to your parents when they tell you that they're like, you're going to thank us. But I started playing classical music. I had a teacher that didn't really connect with my learning style.
Right.
So that was the other reason I think I quit. My mom sang me to sleep until I was probably too old to appropriately be sang to sleep to. And so I had music in my life all the time. My grandmother and grandfather on both sides were music lovers, and grandfather was a tenor and sang opera, went to Juilliard.
Wow.
So there's music in the family.
Right.
No one really pursued it as far professionally, but it was always a really important part of my life.
Now, a question I ask any musician I've ever spoke to is, do you think you were born with a gene? Like, is there a musical gene, or is it something that you kind of acquired?
You know, I wonder, only because I'm hyper creative in general. Music is what seems to flow very naturally for me. Although I'm a photographer, and since picking up photography, it was like instant. Like I'm a decent photographer from right off the bat. Whereas if I'm drawing, I draw like a 3-year-old. So like I have no depth perception. There's no gender. Like if I was to draw a Scott portrait, it could either be Scott or Francine. You would have no idea. There would be no anything. So like,
thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
I appreciate it.
But music has become a lot more natural to me.
Right.
So I wonder if there is a music gene. I think people have a predisposition to certain aspects of their creativity.
Right.
And then you can learn anything. I mean, you don't just sit down at the piano and unless you're one of the 5-year-old prodigies.
Right.
And those happen. But yeah, I don't know.
I wonder where you would have acquired your first influences.
Yeah, I like my music like I like my food, which is very diverse, and I've had an interesting discovery process with music. The other day we were talking, like, what is it, people are calling some of the music that I'm writing these days future folk.
Right.
Like you're like, well, what was your knowledge of history of folk music?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, oddly enough, my history of music isn't that great. So, I know probably more than your average person, but I'm pretty shocked at some of the things I don't know. And it's been a discovery process over the years. It's like I didn't know that there was instrumental guitar music, or I didn't know what basically music with a solo was until I first heard Stevie Ray Vaughan when I was 18 years old.
Wow.
And I had heard a little bit of someone played me some Zeppelin when I was 17 years old. And then I had heard I heard Pink Floyd, discovered Pink Floyd around 15, 16. And that was the first time I was kind of discovering a little bit. And I was like, well, isn't there music that just shreds and just opens up? And then I finally heard Stevie when I was 18. And I was like, what is this?
Right.
And I had, same thing with electronic music. It's like when I grew up and I was in high school, I had one friend who listened to dance music. Otherwise, I didn't really have a community of people who were listening to a lot of the music that I'm creating today.
Right.
You know?
It's funny you spoke about the conversation we had, and I remember thinking afterwards. Thought that some people read history and some people make history, and your process is so you're so focused and driven on specific aspects of what you're doing. So maybe there's no reason for you to know any of it, as far as the historical process of where it came from. You're doing your thing based on wherever it comes from.
I mean, I can definitely say that as I've discovered new artists, someone will hear what I do and they'll be like, have you heard of this? And I'm like, oh no, I haven't heard of that.
Yeah.
Then listening to it, I can directly see how certain introductions, whether it's to a genre or an artist or a style, and it's not just music, I can see how being introduced to certain kinds of dance or performance or visual arts have also shaped some of the music, for better or for worse. But I mean, there was a period of time when I first started producing the music that I'm creating now, which was 19 to 20, kind of around that time. There was a period right when I started where I didn't listen to other music almost at all, literally almost ever, for almost 2 years.
You took what was in the vault at that time and just ran with that.
I had just moved back from India. I had discovered a lot of Eastern musics and a lot of traditional musics from around the world. That was a new thing at that time. I discovered, the meditation and all that. And so I just locked myself in a room almost, for almost 2 years in a closet at that time, because I was living in the hood in East Oakland, because I just moved back
from India.
I had nothing. I was living in a closet basically, and all I wanted to do was make music all the time. And
what brought you to India?
Spiritual seeking.
Oh, okay.
Trying to make sense of a nonsensical world.
Yeah.
I've been living out of the country for a couple of years in Central America, just finding my voice. Because at that point in time, I had been playing music. I picked up guitar at 15. The arc of how did I discover music? Right. Picked up guitar at 15. Started singer-songwriter part of my life, where I kind of wanted to play stuff like Ben Harper, and Jack Johnson and things kind of in that vein at that time. Yeah. And went away to college. Ended up dropping out of college and moving to Central America so I could figure out who I was, because up until that time I had kind of just been a construction of what everyone else told me I was.
That's drastic. I mean, to have to go to South America, Central America, India, to find out what's making you tick or not. None of it made sense. What was going on?
At that point in time, my best friend had died. I was 20 years old.
Right.
And I was working. I was going to school for business. And studying business, planning on getting an MBA. And I was also running a business at the same time. And I started my first business when I was 12 years old.
What kind of business was that?
T-shirt company for all my skateboarder friends. Yeah. So I was a big skateboarder. And so I made a clothing line, and I designed a graphic and got them printed. And
how did it do?
Sold out. 144 shirts. So it was fun. I've always had a thing for business, which I guess is I'm discovering is uncommon in the arts.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate, but running a business, Brian passes away, kind of shifts my whole perspective of reality. And how am I choosing to live my life? And up until this point, I didn't have a lot of friends who were playing music. I didn't have almost any friends who were listening to what I was doing.
Excuse me. That's so intense, though. I mean, you're all in already.
Yeah.
I mean, it's traumatic.
Yeah.
But most people don't get on such a quest so quickly. That's intense.
Yeah. Well, so what happened is I'm helping run this business. I was a personal trainer, so I was in health and wellness and fitness.
Right.
And I'm in the gym 5 days a week. This club is one of the hottest fitness clubs in Los Angeles. I'm 19 years old. I had this incredible job. I go to this party and I meet this really cute bartender. And I'm talking to the bartender and I'm like, hey, we should hang out sometime. And she's like, nah, I don't think so. And I'm like, wow, why? What's the deal? And she's like, I'm moving to Ghana. And at this point in time, I had no friends that have ever done anything like that at all.
Yeah.
Anything, like move out of the country and redefine your life. You know, that's not where I come from. And I'm looking at her, I'm like, Ghana? Like, what? Why? Like, why are you moving to Africa? You're making 6 figures as a bartender. You're like gorgeous and you're in the hottest clubs in LA. Like, you have a dream job. You know, this is my mental framework at this point.
Totally logical too, by the way.
Totally logical, yeah. I'm like, okay, great. 6 figures, attractive bartender. You know, everything's going good for her. And she just looks at me and she's like, I need a change. And I remember very definitively, it's like, me too. I'm quitting. And I quit. And within the next
you were in Ghana.
Couple months. No, I moved to Costa Rica. Costa Rica was my. Because
there's consciousnness and there's codependency. It's a whole different thing.
Yeah, Costa Rica at that point in time, it was such a scary move for me because I was my framework of what the rest of the world was like was very scary. You know, I had been abroad with my family, but they were very different kind of trips. So this was like, I'm going to move by myself. I'm going to move to a country. I grew up speaking Spanish, so I speak Spanish. So I was a little bit comfortable there, but I kind of just threw myself into it. And instead of having everyone else be like, you're David, and these are all the aspects of David that we know about you, moving to Costa Rica gave me a blank slate to just redefine my entire life.
Did you have any idea how valuable a move like that was going to eventually be for you?
I mean, I think like when I just remember this conversation so vividly. It was, you know, this woman was like she's like an angel because.
Is this still the bartender?
The bartender, yeah. I mean, I never saw her again after that. But at that moment, I think I did know that some major change was going to happen. I didn't necessarily. I mean, if I was to look back at myself, and I just turned 30 this year, so it's about 10 years. And in the last 10 years, I couldn't possibly dream. I mean, maybe I did dream that this is how things were going to be. I mean, I think I always knew that there was a medicine in the music. You know, that's what I feel like a lot of my music was medicine for me. It helped heal me, helped heal the tragedy that I was going through, and help heal like my aching heart from not really understanding like how this world could possibly be so cruel to good people. And now I feel like that's what I hope my medicine is for other people. I hope it's medicine for them so they can experience that same kind of alchemical transformation that I've had through listening to other music and creating the music.
Right. So then is that where the music kind of really took off as well? Well, not yet.
No, I did get to play my first concerts though. So my first concerts were busking, playing on the street. Because at this point in time, I'd never played a concert in the US. And I moved to Costa Rica with a guitar.
Right.
And I would just sit on the street and play music. And then
just like a guitar and an instrument, whatever the case is?
Not for money, just play on the street. And so people could just hear it, and I could get comfortable playing in front of people. Because at this point, no one had ever heard what I did.
And did you know this is what you want to do? That's why you're doing it? Mm-hmm. Like I want to be a musician.
It was very definitive.
Conscious decision.
Very, very definitive.
Okay.
I was like, I'm going to be a musician, and I'm going to sell out Madison Square Garden, which hasn't happened yet, but it will.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I believe it will. No doubt.
But that was a thing. You know, this is where I'm going, and
that's ballsy, man. I give you a lot of credit for that.
Yeah. I mean, it took a long time. You know, it was like it went from in that 6 months, I managed to go from never playing anything to playing on the street to playing in a bar unplugged to singing into a microphone for the first time to ultimately it's kind of a funny story. My first official concert ended up getting sponsored by this company called Flor de Caña, which is a rum company in Central America. They had heard that I'd come to town, and I think they thought I was someone that I wasn't.
Nice.
I think someone had told them that I was like supporting Coldplay or something like that. But they just liked the music, and they're like, "We're gonna throw you a concert." We're like, "All right." And so,
Great.
that happened. And then I moved to Guatemala. I lived there for almost a year. Still was just playing street music.
But this is like third world we're talking.
Yeah.
How did you fend for yourself? I mean, how'd you make, ends meet?
I had done pretty well when in my job from like 19 to 21.
Oh, so okay.
Mm-hmm. So I did pretty well then. I had saved a bunch, and I just, part of what traveling taught me is how to simplify my life. It was like there was all these like preconceptions of like, what do I need to be happy? What is successful?
Right.
And so I was also redefining all of that.
How important was it to be doing that without being infiltrated by all the media and all the direction we get told how we're supposed to look, what we're supposed to wear?
Yeah.
Everything is defined for us, and then we could feel like an outcast by not fitting into to some kind of format.
I mean, I think that that's probably the most valuable part of what these 3 years traveling did for me was that I wasn't worried about what anyone else thought or what I looked like. Or
tell me about that.
Well, so up until that time, it's like I had grown up in this, upper middle class kind of sheltered neighborhood life. So what traveling really gave me the opportunity to do was redefine myself completely in terms of how I define success. What is important to my life? Do I need a hot shower? Do I need toilet paper? It's like it got
the
pretty extreme.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great idea.
Yeah. But the real answer for me was actually no. Like, and if you wanted to like get it got pretty wild. Like when
here we go.
Well, when I'd done Central America for a couple of years, but so leading up to India, because India was, living in India for 6 months was pretty extreme for me at that time.
Yeah.
And so I moved into a house with no running water. That was like shit outside, pigs eat your shit, no toilet paper. And so that was like sleep on the ground, barefoot.
Not too much dating going on, I assume, back then.
Lots of great dating.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Beautiful girls.
Yeah. Yeah.
You'd be surprised at how simple you can get your life. But, I think at that point in time, I wanted to shed everything.
Yeah.
I wanted to experience of like, how happy can I possibly be with the least amount possible? Here I'm living in India. There's 1 billion people. It's some of the most economically challenged places on earth.
Well, that's the gist of a spiritual quest, right?
Yeah, like how can I? Here I'm looking around India.
Feel full with nothing.
And I'm seeing these people. I'm like, some of these kids are so happy. There's so much joie de vivre in like some of the faces of the people I'm meeting. And meanwhile, here I'm coming thinking that I need to have like a Mercedes to be happy.
Yeah.
So it got more and more extreme. There was like, the no running water. I walked around barefoot for like 2 months. That was, pretty full on. And then just kept going deeper and deeper and deeper.
And this is like exciting for you at this point? Like,
or
is this?
Yeah.
How challenging is it?
It was definitely, there were some rough spots, but like it was partially by choice. And at this point in time, it wasn't hard for me anymore. I'd experimented when I lived in Guatemala. I'd moved down there with 2 friends, and I had gotten into this interesting like real estate thing where they were doing like luxury eco development kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I met this guy. He's like, I have this house that you can rent. And it was like a 5,000 square foot villa on this lake. And it was like like a Pablo Escobar drug lord mansion. It was ridiculous. And it was like me and these two other guys in this incredible house. The next month after that, I moved into an unfinished concrete block with like a 15 by 15 square foot house. Also no running water, no finished floor, no nothing. In the village.
And you're totally cool with this.
Super happy.
Yeah.
I had my guitar. I was writing music. I was painting. I was just exploring what it felt like to actually be myself 100% of the time with no outside forces shaping me in any way.
Was there any checks and balances going on there? Like, am I getting too deep into something, or is this nothing?
No. I mean, no, not at all. I mean, I think I'm still close with my family.
Yeah.
At this point, I was kind of transitioning away from a lot of the friends groups I grew up with.
Yeah.
They were kind of at home doing their thing, and I would get messages on like Facebook that would be like, "What are you doing?" like, we don't understand what you're doing.
So even though you're at this grassroots way of living, you're still social media?
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah.
Yeah, still social media,
Total
millennial. This is, at this point in time, 2005 and 2006. So it was easy to stay connected. And I was documenting my journey, and like, there's pictures of my transition.
Did that interfere with what you were doing at all, or did it enhance it? The whole...
I was, at that point in time, like when I made the switch, I was done. I was done with the life that I had made up until that point. And I was really, really firm in like, I want to redefine who I am based on my own choices, not based on
That's all that matters at this point, right?
Mm-hmm. I just traveled back from Southeast Asia 2 days ago.
Right, you're all over the place.
This was a 37 and a half hour journey from Cambodia, straight to a music festival on the beach in New Jersey. So, pardon my throat recovery.
That's what I'm telling you. A fascinating life. I'm telling you. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
In your 30 years, you've outlived most people that I've ever met. And I've met some people.
Yeah.
You're getting it done.
You can cram a lot into a year.
You certainly can. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where is your level of consciousness, like at this point in your life? Because it's probably further ahead than you even realize. Do you agree?
At this point in my life now?
No. When you're going through
when I'm doing this journey?
Yeah. 10 years ago or whatever.
So, it started because my mom, when Brian passed away, my mom suggested that I might try meditating. And I laughed at her. And I was like, this isn't for me. This is bullshit. It's a fucking joke. Meditating is hippies and da-da-da-da.
I'm a skateboarder, man.
I'm skateboarding, playing music, and I go to Hollywood clubs.
Yeah.
Da-da-da. And there was, I picked up a couple, like a Deepak Chopra book and a Dr. Wayne Dyer book, which were Eckhart Tolle, who are the kind of more accessible teachers at that time for me.
Yeah.
They weren't too extreme. I was like, this is interesting. Well, I could try this. Meditation doesn't have to be, as I know now, meditation doesn't have to be sitting for an hour in a challenging position and like that. Meditation can be 5 minutes. It's just mindfulness. So I was introduced to it in that way. And it became just very natural for me right away. It felt so good to free my mind. It's like I was like the ADHD poster child growing up.
Yeah.
So, I was medicated I went to therapy like 3 to 5 times a week. I didn't necessarily have what meditation has provided for me now.
Right.
Which is like calm, clarity, mindfulness, peace.
Listen, to be able to get it in your early 20s, to me, is a phenomenon.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say, practicing, there's a great sentence that says, practicing meditation isn't like, you don't ever arrive anywhere.
You never master it.
Well, it's just, you don't practice it like you practice like an instrument.
Yeah.
You practice meditation like you practice medicine. It's just like part of your beingness. You don't ever act, the journey is the destination.
What benefits has that offered you?
Oh my God, it's the foundation of my happiness in my life now. It's I feel like it's freed my life, my soul, my spirit.
Besides your music, I mean, your music is fantastic, and you create creative process, and all of that is great. But your intensity is fascinating, right? Seriously, and we're from a different era.
Yeah.
So like, and for you to be available to your process at that young age, for me was an impossibility at that age. Like, I'm more open to it now out of necessity.
Yeah.
Almost as you get older, and you're like, what have I done? How much more time am I gonna waste? Buying this package of nonsense that I bought already, or been taught, or whatever the case is,
Yeah, well, we learn those things, right? It's like we're a construction of what everyone else tells us that we are.
Unlearning those things is a process for some.
So it's the most difficult thing you'll ever do in your life, ever, is define yourself.
Yeah.
And most people will never do that. Most people will die being a definition of what everyone else tells them they'll be. They'll work a job.
Exactly.
They'll go do what either their parents told them, or they'll, you have to go to college, and you have to get this, and you have to do this, and you have to be this, and you are this, or whatever those things are. It takes a lot, and I commend you for having that courage. It takes a lot of courage to actually step out of it and say, like, well, maybe there's something else at all.
Well, something, I appreciate you saying that, but it's really not that complex. It's almost like when you have nowhere to go, like you have nowhere else to go, these tough decisions aren't so tough.
Yeah.
You can only take what's there.
Yeah, but getting to that place, it must have taken you, for example, to get to that place where you're so...
desperation, and it's like destroying yourself for so many years and just whatever. But I
now
understand
here
what
you
you're
are,
saying.
and it's like you're like, well, you got to this place of desperation. You're like, well, what do I do? I've tried all these things. You're like, okay, well, I'm going to try to be open to something that I've been completely closed off.
Right, and you feel like I've been blind for so long, almost, and now you can start to see something, and then and just to stay on that. And who knows, at the end of the day, who knows what it's all about? But why not do it as opposed to just not doing it? I mean, that's like the choice, either search or don't search.
So, I became friends with this man recently. His name's Sam Beard. Sam Beard's 76 years old. He's worked with the last 6 presidents of the United States.
Really?
He's an unbelievable man.
What does he do?
He's helped create thousands and thousands of jobs for Americans. He's a brilliant guy. Sam, love you very much. But he recently, 4 years ago, discovered the term mindfulness. This is a 72-year-old guy. He's worked with the presidents of the United States. I mean, that's about as high as he gets.
Yeah.
And here's a guy, and
although this next election could ring a lot different.
An interesting time. But so here's Sam, 72 years old, never had any. This is not a part of his reality, his universe, his mindfulness, or what that means, meditation, these parts of his life. And now he discovers it, changes his whole life. And now part of his idea is, how can we get this way of being, this way of thinking, which is not religious, non-denominational, just being mindful of how we live our lives, how we treat each other, how we treat our planet.
Yeah.
Where is paying attention to breathing, like something that we do without thinking every day of our life. If you don't do it, you will die. But is one of the foundation principles of yoga, of meditation, just connecting with your
survival
breath.
too.
And survival.
Yeah.
If you don't do it, you will die.
Yeah.
But how many people unconsciously breathe their entire life?
Yeah.
How many people go through all their emotions being a sheep in the herd?
Yeah.
Instead of just being mindful of how we live our life. So Sam, 76 years old now, is like full on the full front. And I feel like a lot of that's happening in the Western world and in the world in general.
It's like starting another lifetime all over again.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and like yourself as well. Next time I see you, you might be like, yo, David, let's go to a yoga class.
Listen,
I want to meditate with you.
You know, one thing I wanted to say too is a lot of it is in recovery. I've got to meet people, right, that have blown my mind just with their own personal authenticity. You know, their truth, and just to be able to experience that, it's just shown me that that I've been limiting myself for so long. Like I got to get to the, realize that there's no excuses. There's no time's not coming back.
You know who's in your way?
Only me.
Only you.
Only me. Yeah. And then you can sound so good, and I'm very capable of this too. I mean, you can always sound good, but what are you doing?
Absolutely.
But, I mean, you're right out there and raw with it, and then the fact that you're talented with music too. You know, what did Dana say the other day? Her fame has helped made her megaphone bigger. So whatever message she has, it just reaches that many more people.
Yeah.
I mean, how many, think of the people that you reach with your stuff, right? With your,
yeah. And it's growing, which is cool. You know, it's I think one of the things I'm really grateful for these days is that I see how things are growing. And I'm looking forward to being able to inspire more people to be inspired.
All right, so David, take me through the creative process of the human experience.
Very cool. So I picked this song, Backswing, which is from my newest album. It's called Gone, Gone Beyond. And I picked this song in particular because I thought it was a really good fusion of organic instrumentation and some of the electronic composition. So it'll give you a little bit of an idea of what I do. And so I'll take you kind of from the beginning to end process and tell you a little bit about the creation of this project. So we recorded half of this in a Brooklyn apartment, and now they're in a really nice studio. But part of the creative process of everything I do is I'm traveling around the world constantly and collaborating and working with different artists. Right. So as one of the musicians on it said, is one of the most important things is the environment for me, where the creativity and where the art happens. So that sometimes you can't get that in $1 million studio, and sometimes you get that in a noisy Brooklyn apartment. And so this track in particular, we started with this one sample with this percussion player, Walker Adams, who was playing. And I'm like, that's beautiful. What are you playing? Just keep playing that. So we recorded it. It sounds like this. And the interesting thing about this sample is, and why I wanted to show this in particular, is this sound was the seed of this entire song, but we actually never used this sound ever. Actually, this was the bass beat of how we started everything. Okay. So we started playing other instruments over the top of that, but in the end,
you pulled that out.
We pulled the original seed out of it at all. So we never used it. So I'm going to go back over here, and I like to record a lot of what I like to call found sounds. So doors creaking, crumpling paper bags. Things like that. So my drum track here, which is, you'd have like a traditional drummer playing a kit. You see all these little colored blocks here?
Yeah.
So all of these colored blocks, which is quite a few, every single one of those is an individual drum hit, or a crumpling paper bag, or a creaking door, or something like that. So all together they sound like this. There's a breath in there. We recorded a couple people breathing. So and then using that as like a percussive element.
So that sounds like a hand clap, and it's not a hand clap.
They are. There's lots of hand claps. There's individual people from the room clapping, and I'm recording those bits. And then I have like 100,000 different sample libraries of water drops and hand claps and wood blocks and things like that. Wow. So then we did that. One of my favorite things about this is it has a really great horn section. And the horn section was actually seeded by this line here. So I did a pass through. We recorded the stand-up bass, we recorded all these other instruments, and sometimes what I'll have a player do in this process is I'll record a loop, whether that's like an 8 or 16 measure loop, a repeating phrase. Right? And then I'll have someone play, I'm just play for 10 minutes. And I'll pick out something and be like, I like that, I like that, I like that, and I like that. Can you elaborate in those styles? So that happened with this violin track, which ended up becoming the hook of this song, which is. So after I heard that, that was one phrase out of 15 minutes of recording.
Right.
We brought in horns, so then together they sound like this.
And that's horns combined with the
horns
violin?
And strings.
Yeah.
And then, so if you look here, we won't go do them all, but on this track, there's 41 different layers of different things. I'm a minimalist, so I really try to, part of my creative process is how can I really explore the space between all of the notes? How can I create as much space as possible? Some tracks will have 100 different layers. And then just really quickly, I'll show you, this is featuring Danny Musango on vocal, who's the vocalist for this project, and here's everything together. Anyway, that's a little peek into what I do. The process is different every single time. Of whether it's someone coming to me with a song and they say I have this vocal or I have this guitar line or let's jam and figure something out together. Every time is different.
And you do that kind of stuff strictly on spontaneity? You'll get something that's just start with out of a clear blue and build from there? Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah. I am, I don't want to say, there are other artists who do this too, but I find that many artists pick a style or a sound or a genre and they stick to that. And part of my project, the human experience or any of the other projects that I have is that I just like to create. And I like African music, I like Indian music, I like Cuban music, I like...
That's what I was going to ask you, because hearing that piece there, that's a finished piece, what genre would you say that really fits under? It could fit under many.
So, would
you label that piece?
So this album, the reviews of the album, we're calling it future folk. So that we're combining elements of traditional folk music,
right?
Storytelling. It's an actual song in terms of also the length of the song is a little bit more traditional,
right?
And then the instrumentation itself, what instruments that we're actually using in the composition. So, I prefer not to genreify what I do because I'll do everything from 50-piece cinematic orchestral pieces to funk, soul kind of influence pieces like this.
Right.
But
it's
yeah,
really nice.
It's melody and harmony. That's the most important.
It had a pop feel, a jazz feel. Yeah. That was a really nice piece.
Cool. Yeah, that's about it.
Okay. Now you are the epitome of a one-man show. You book yourself, you manage yourself, the performance, you write all your material, everything. You do collaborations. How much of that came out of these trips and journeys that you took, to Costa Rica and India and these experiences?
I'm not sure. I would say that in terms of the business aspect, that's been something that was before that. I think what did come out of my travels, and my travels have continued the last 7 years, but what's come out of that is my unwillingness to compromise my integrity. So that's why I still book myself. Actually, I mentioned to you maybe that I'm about to talk to my first booking agent who I'm considering working with. But part of that's been because I have a really firm intention with why I make music, where I share my music, how I share my music. And I'm unwilling to work with a manager or an agent or a group of people who are willing to basically whore out what I do to try to, or like say like, oh, hey, David, if you make more of that, you'll be way more popular. Or we could if you make a couple more songs like that, we could put you on the radio. You know, I'm just not willing to do that. I'm not willing to work with artists who are, talking about stuff and things and bitches and hoes and being degrading to women. It's like I'm just not interested in that at all.
Right. Okay.
And so even though a lot of the music I make are for 10,000 person parties or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not an option for me. I'm not willing to license my music to Coca-Cola. It's not ever going to happen, ever.
So would you say that musical integrity was born out of
I feel it's a spiritual integrity and a personal integrity and an ethic that I learned when I was younger, but it was reinforced as I've discovered the power of music and the power of art to create change in this world. And I've witnessed what an artist can do when they don't sell out, when they stand behind their vision.
Okay, what is that then? What can you do? Like what's your goal? Like
inspire a generation of people to collaborate. I have 4 principles. It's creating, collaborating, sharing, and learning. So I'm hoping that my music inspires human beings to have a level of openness, like what we're talking about, to be inspired to create something, to be passionate about something instead of just going through the motions of life. And look, there's people who will license their music to Coca-Cola who will also inspire other people. The arts are inspiring.
Yeah.
But for me personally, I have certain parts of certain things that I am in alignment with and things that I'm not. Fuck Monsanto. I'm not a big fan, So if Monsanto wanted to give me $500,000 to license my track, they can fuck off.
Yes. I'm with you there.
And putting toxic chemicals into our body, they can fuck off.
Yeah.
And people who are, judging other people based on the color of their skin, their sexual orientation, their gender, whatever it is, they can fuck off.
Right.
In terms of the business of what I'm doing, it's been challenging to find someone who's really, really good, who actually cares.
Right.
Most people just, not all of them. There's tons of amazing people. We know some of those same people who have those morals and values, but I'm just meeting them personally. It's like the journey that I've been on is just, my career has gone like this. I never had that one song that was like, boom, that one song that just got you where everyone and millions of people around, everyone know that song. I've just created whatever has been inspiring for me at that time, which is like.
But do you agree with me if I said that your conviction to stay the course will not only, musically you're going to attract people to collaborate and do things with, but on just your personal integrity, you are going to attract certain other artists so that it's not only the music together, you've got the same vision. Which
Absolutely.
Goes beyond the music.
Way more.
Yeah,
way more. And in fact, that is what I'm launching. And I have a new collective. We're calling it a collective. It's also a movement. It's called Slow Down.
Right. To talk about that, that's interesting.
So Slow Down is a collective of artists who are using one of their foundations, the tagline is, it's a collective of individuals with an intention of expanding consciousness by nurturing our greatest human resource, which is creativity.
And why slow down?
Because we're moving too quickly. Slow down it's taken out of the Tao to simplify, simplify our lives. There's so much magic all around us. Go take a hike. Like I spend a lot of time in nature. Here we're in like New York City, and right now we're like in Manhattan, like the heart of everything.
Yeah.
Massive skyscrapers on top of one right now, and we forget that there's so much beauty and simplicity, and you can just find that in nature and by slowing down and taking a step back. So, maybe I'll interview you next time a little bit about like how do we slow down?
I wish I had an answer.
I know, but part of those answers start with self-inquiry, which is part of this. Which is going to be part of this process and this project. So all the artists involved in it use their platform for some kind of social change.
Yeah.
And there's the components are music, art and design, which also incorporate performance art, like cirque or things like that, and health and well-being. And so then the creating, collaborating, sharing, and learning are the different platforms that we explore.
When I was reading about that, I was listening to a piece of music that went with it, and that sounded slow. Was that a deliberate? Is that the music, the tempo of the music?
Well, so that was part. So Slow Down is also a record label, and I guess one of the things I'm kind of more well known for is making slower, especially in the electronic music world.
Yeah.
I make more like down tempo or slower music.
Mm-hmm. You're a New Yorker now, right?
I'm a New Yorker now.
What kind of inspiration does that give you? What do you get from like the whole energy of the city? Where are you in New York? I'm
in Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
Yeah, in Bushwick.
Bushwick.
I'm in Bushwick.
Nice.
Yeah. Most people who are native New Yorkers say they're like, you live where?
Bushwick is not what it was.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I love my neighborhood. I have such a great, it's very colorful, literally and figuratively. I have so many different kinds of people and ethnicities. It's such a beautiful, inspiring place to be. I think, it's interesting moving to New York because I'm a nature person. I spend as much time like hiking and spending time out in nature as possible. And so moving to New York City was the opposite of what I think it got. Like, when I posted online, I was like, moving to New York City. It got like 500 comments of question marks and strange face emoticons.
Yeah.
We're like, what? Like, I thought you were going to move to Maui.
You were on, man.
Yeah, like I was going to move to Maui, like the opposite. Like I was like, I'm going to move to Maui and like start an artist retreat center and a creative incubator and do that. I got this opportunity to move here. And previous to that, I didn't have a house for 6 years. I actually lived on the road touring 300 days a year.
Right.
For the previous 6 years, which is pretty intense. So I land here, and being in New York, it's like, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere.
You need the challenge, huh?
It's like that. It's being here has caused me to really raise the bar a little bit, because people are moving very quickly here.
Especially Brooklyn. Brooklyn's like, forget it.
It's just like hustle, hustle, hustle all the time. And I think I've created a really beautiful sanctuary in Brooklyn. I have an amazing house, studio, and it's full of art from all over the world. And it feels like you're in you could be anywhere.
Yeah.
But New York is a really special place.
Yeah.
It's like I grew up in Los Angeles, but there's just something about New York which I feel like has been pushing me to go further. And that's one of the things I'm most grateful about being here right now.
And Bushwick too, by the way. That's where a lot of the creative energy is right now. More so than anywhere.
Someone told me, and we'll have to fact check this, but it's the highest concentration of artists in North America. In North America.
I mean, I've heard that plenty of times. I mean, it's not like news.
Yeah. So being in I'm super grateful to be in New York City. And I'm super grateful to get out of New York City all the time.
Yeah. Most people are. It's good that. Very true. Okay, so then, what is the most besides the energy? What's the greatest thing being in New York right now has to offer you musically?
It's got to be just it's number one is connections and other people to collaborate with.
Yeah.
So like I'm a hardcore collaborator.
Yeah.
That's kind of the foundation of what I do.
Mention some of the names of your collaborators.
Yeah. So some of the new artists I'm working with is Rising Appalachia, Elephant Revival. Couple of groups in the performance art world called Lucent Dossier, Quixotic, Android Jones, and these are a lot of incredible. The William Close and the Earth Harp worked with Ignacio Perez Burrell, one of the original Buena Vista Social Club, for doing some Cuban stuff, but tons of artists. I have like 200 songs. About 120 of them are collaborative.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because the business and the industry has changed so much, especially like it's on hydro drive the last 15 years or so, right?
Yeah.
But I remember something that one of Johnny's clients, Peter Gabriel, he said, it was just one of those things that he heard and it just stayed with me for some reason. And he said, you got to give them what they want so that eventually you can do what you want. And he was speaking about record labels, and he got to the point where he didn't have to compromise anything anymore. He's doing this stuff that a lot of people didn't understand. Turns out great. He would have never got those opportunities had he not pumped out some hits earlier. But it's not like that anymore. The whole industry is completely different.
I feel like it's not and it is at the same time. Like there are artists out there who I had heard of a couple of years ago. Then they changed their sound completely, and you see that now they're with one of the largest record labels, and now they're huge.
Yeah.
Now, will that same artist go back to their roots and create what is authentic to them? Maybe or maybe not. A lot of people don't care. I mean, it's one of our major problems with our humanity is a lot of people just don't really care.
Right.
A lot of people are willing to sell out.
Yeah.
And
sure.
I mean,
economy gets tough too. There's a lot of factors, right? Listen, we could go on and on. I mean, we could go for hours here, but it's July, and I'm melting.
You notice that we're actually physically melting?
Yes, we're melting. Okay, but you did bring. How do you pronounce this thing?
Ngoni. Camelon Ngoni.
I've been mispronouncing it, so I didn't even take the chance. And you said you'd be kind enough to show us how that works and play something on it. You just maybe you could
I'll tell you a little background on it. Tell you a little bit about it. So I collect instruments from all over the world, and part of the human experience, my project, is that I believe that music has the power to transcend language, and I've experienced this all over the world, whether it's like playing on all other continents except for Antarctica, basically. The experience of people being able to, in my experience of listening to music, having a transformative experience, but not necessarily being able to speak the same language of the person sharing.
Right.
So when I came up with the name, The Human Experience, it was that I'm going to draw from all different traditions of music, whether that's Indian, African, Irish, whatever, every single thing, every religion, everything. So I try to pick up as many things as I can. And this one in particular is the new love of my life.
It's wild.
And it's from Mali, from West Africa, and it was made by two friends of mine. This is a big gourd, so this is a giant vegetable, and this is an animal. And this is it's a West African harp, so this is a couple thousand years old. It's an ancient instrument, and it was used by hunters in Mali. So when they're on the hunt, they would play this music. And just like you heard some of the stuff that I showed you earlier, or if you have a chance to check out my work and see what I'm doing, you can see how I'll integrate an instrument like this into like the beats and the contemporary feel. So that's what's going to happen. It is brand new for me, as I told you, but I feel like I can at least make something sound decent on it.
It's like the shiny red bike at Christmas, right?
I couldn't help myself but want to bring it in just so when we watch this interview a year from now, and I'm a lot better at this instrument. But anyway.
Before you play anything, where can anybody go to find your music and get turned on to your stuff? They should.
You can go to humanexperiencecreations.com. If you type in the Human Experience music in Google, you'll find a lot of stuff.
Right.
SoundCloud, search for the Human Experience, Bandcamp, iTunes, Amazon, Pandora, Spotify, blah, blah. Yeah. Anywhere that they distribute music, basically, you can find my music.
And if you can pay for it, pay for it.
Yeah, if you want to pay for it. I'll take your money. But if you don't want to pay for it and you want to share it with other people, that was the thing, is that my music, I feel like that your creativity comes through you. It doesn't come from you. I don't own my music.
Yeah.
You know, my music it's just what's happening, and it happens to be that I've refined my skill set so I can make it, but I don't own it. And so if you want to give me money for it, you can give me money for it.
Yeah.
And if not, you can have it for free.
You have to check out his site, because I'll tell you, he's a fascinating guy, and his music it's phenomenal. So please, give it a shot.
Learning a little bit by little bit, but it's a joyous instrument.
Yeah. All right, well, Dave, I can't thank you enough, man. This was
a
real
pleasure.
treat. We could do this for another couple hours, I mean, you got a fascinating story. I can't thank you enough for coming by.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks a lot. Thanks.